This is the If More Let's Divide podcast.
Yo, Charlie, guys, what happened? We are back again. Welcome to the If More Let's Divide podcast. Charlie Fred,
What up, G?
what happened?
My biz. I still dey wear my glasses. These glasses, every time they wear them,
Charlie.
they're my...
Yeah, and now they are saying I have to go for an eye check because, Charlie, I don't see well
Really?
nowadays. Yeah.
Is it reading or just vision?
So, like, vision. Yeah.
Okay.
About reading is also vision.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, sometimes, you can see clearly, but when it comes to reading, you can't. It gets blurry.
No. For reading, I see.
Okay.
But when I'm looking at something on the screen on TTV, and I'm a little bit, But first, I could see everything, including at night,
Wow.
including any tiny hole, I did see everything. But Charlie,
The tiny holes.
yeah. Like I mean,
You mean like what?
Chai, so what's up?
Chai Brabi.
What's happening on today's episode?
Exciting times.
Yeah.
As usual, we always have somebody exciting, somebody worth talking to.
Yeah, and I'm personally, looking forward to this episode because, this person that we are about to speak with, is a photographer, and you know how I enjoy photography. Yeah, and
Legendary photographer.
yeah, never ever thought we would meet, like because we've been friends online on Instagram for a very, 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 very long time. And so I'm looking forward to this episode. Yeah. So, Charlie, without further ado, should we enter?
Of course.
Yeah, Charlie. Guys, without further ado, help us welcome Eddie Otchere, a photographer, an author, and an educator. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Yo, Charlie, what's up?
I'm very good, sir. Very good, sir.
Yeah,
very good, sir. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be up in Ganesh and having this conversation with you, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I'm a photographer and I'm part of the diaspora.
Yeah.
But also, part of me is like an Accra boy.
Yeah. You grew up in Dansuma, right?
Yeah, part of the Dansuma dream. My mum bought a crib in Dansuma and then sort of came back from like London in the 70s to set herself up back in, almost just in time for the first coup, the first Rawlins coup, just in time for me to get my first Rawlins chain. You know what I'm saying? And just in time to really experience Ghana at the change, but we couldn't really make it work. So went back to Europe and did that. But still, it's in my heart, the memories of like just being able to just walk down into the bush and just start fishing for catfish.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, back in the day.
In the day,
Yeah.
just everything was a dirt road. There were no Chinese highways. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I think we used to call it what? Yokogari?
Yeah, Yokogari.
What's it called now?
Yeah, now it's
Gobe.
called beans.
People they go gobe. I don't know where that came
Red.
from.
Red.
Gobe, yeah. The rebranding of Ghanaian food every 2 weeks. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The gobe was strange to me because I had never heard it until I moved back to Ghana and I was like, gobe, what be gobe? And then it's like the yokogari that I know, the red. Red is the sophisticated one. That's the stew type.
Yeah, stew. Yeah. I mean, I know yokogari. And even last, I tweeted like how yokogari tasted back in the day when my mom would buy it from work. It's different now. I don't.
They put the zomi.
Yeah,
the zomi.
Zomi change.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what it was. The oil change. But my phone's making some unapologetic noise.
Don't. Should we?
Oh, it's down there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. That's another wonderful thing about Ghana. You have to maintain eye contact with people.
Yeah.
And when you go to Kokorobite, you make a friend for life.
Yeah.
Unintended.
Every day he's sending me memes, calling me up, showing me pictures of lobsters and fish. I'm like, all right, guy. It's part of the thing.
It's
part of the thing that we call modern Ghana.
So this could be a hard question. If you had to pick, where would you pick to like live in Accra or to live in London?
I think it's a great question, but I think as I've reached this point in my life where I can start to be sort of romantic. I've got to be real, right? It's going to be Accra, but I also work closely with James Barner, and when he hit around 80 to 87, he couldn't live in Jamestown anymore. Just physically, there's not enough places that he can comfortably walk in his current condition.
Yeah.
And now that he's hitting 97, I kind of see what he was aiming for. So, a lifetime is like, yeah, of course I want to be in Ghana. Of course I want to be out here. I want to go deeper into the interior. I want to go deeper to Tamale and Karachi. I want to get to understand what lies beneath all the trees and all the gold, what sits beneath all of that. Because it's the most beautiful stories you've never heard.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to be here. London, and it's easy for me to say that because London's going through its own issues with regards to the politics of, 20 years of conservative government and Brexit and what they call technically a doom loop, where your society is going round in a circle and it's going down. It's a race to the bottom. I don't feel that in Ghana. I feel like there's hardship and there's problems, but no one's trying to race to the bottom.
Okay.
We have to come up.
Yeah.
And that consciousness has to be in everybody. The cab driver, the woman said, and I see that. I see like I'm buying melons on the street and the care taken in cutting it, not contaminating it and being hygienic but still be out on road. Yeah, come on. That's moving up. Whereas
That's Fred.
Yeah.
Never ever thought.
Yeah. I didn't look at it from that perspective, but it's very intriguing how you've experienced. I mean, at least for you to have both worlds at your disposal, and then being able to be perceptive enough to say, this is what I appreciate about. Yeah.
So, you made mention of stories. I'm sure your mom has told you so many stories about Ghana from her time.
Yeah. I think my mum's told me definitely her story. I think that's part of the reason why I'm a photographer. I find myself having to be that guy. It's like, oh, Teddy, come and take a picture of me over here standing next to this car. So it's just a car. All right, cool. Do this, do that.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of that guy, and I have been that guy. So I kind of remember my first photograph. My mum just bought a new sofa. She's got a flossy dress on. She's got the new Minolta 110 camera, and I have to take that picture. And then when she gets it back, she's like, oh, but you chopped my head off. In other words, I'm your photographer, so you're guiding me, and I have to make sure you look good. And I've seen that in so many alpha women, shall I say? Women who are the heads of the family, who are the ones that, the matriarchs. Their position is kind of important to them. And the position of visualization, of using iconography or images on the wall as a route to your dreams or your God. There's a wonderful picture she has on her wall. It's just a picture of a house, a really beautiful house with a tacky sort of logo saying, I don't know. Yeah. But that's what she wants, and that's what she's got, because she used the image to...
She aspired to that.
And I think that comes from the fact she couldn't read or write. I think so. The iconography of the word was lost on her. What's replaced it is pictograms, the photograph, the image.
Do you remember what it said?
I think live your dreams, or the house of your dreams. It is about, she already read into it the aspiration of the image. It is about, and what it's got? It's got a beautiful house with columns, the Ghanaian dream, nice green thing with a Volvo parked in the drive. The dream. And look around us, the build of Ghana. The dream is in bricks and mortar.
So was your mom a photographer?
No, my mom's just...
So your mom just had a camera?
Well, no, she just had things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We come from the old world where, them ones where you go to a Ghanaian home in London, or it's just full of things. Freezers, fridges, suitcases, just things, all of it to be shipped back. And all of them things were representations of dreams of like, you know, so there's a chainsaw for so-and-so who wants to go and cut down trees. There's a flat screen television for so-and-so. There's an iPhone for so-and-so. There's a rice cooker. Oh, clothes, you can sell that. And when that was cameras, you know. So, yes. And I've got that bug too, do you know what I mean? I'm a hoarder. I collect things. I've got an incredible, ridiculous amount of cameras, which hopefully when I come to Ghana, I'm bringing with me. So,
like if you say incredible amounts, like 10, 20?
Hundreds, thousands, yeah.
Of cameras?
Cameras, yeah. So during the end of the analog era, when everyone was getting rid of their analog gear, myself and a crew of others just started buying everything because it was just, the price was dropping. It's like when DSLRs, when people go, I'm not into DSLRs this week, the price just drops. You know that's the best camera and they'll never make that camera again. So
then you buy it
just buy
for
it
cheap,
for nothing, and hold the stock, hold it, and then 2012 happens, the stock starts coming back out again. So the best of it's all gone, but what remains are the ones that people don't value. And there's some great cameras that are great but not valued. My ideal and my ideology is just trying to train people into living their life through photography. So we are having a conversation the other day, and I was talking about photo albums, and you always found the Ghanaian photo albums, there's always an X on someone's head, and that represents their passing. But how much of the family story is wrapped up in those photographs, and you can unpack in those photographs. More importantly, if photography was invented in the 19th century and there were cameras in Ghana within 10 years of the first camera being made, they were working on the ground, building the Ghanaian dream. You know, and those images, those portraits of all our kings and all our leaders has given us a root and a depth and a belief system that can't be taken away. And so that's why photography is important to us as Ghanaians, because we're the first to adopt it and use it to, you know, put our icons up there. We know, you know, all the great queens, and you know, all the names. We know what they look like because there's a portrait of them. They commissioned that portrait. They went, I'll pay my shekels. And working with James Barner and knowing how those portraits are made, it's not easy work going into a village in Cape Coast in 1872 with nothing but matches and a glass plate as a negative, and you got chemicals, and you have to take everything with you to make the print on the spot to serve the client.
What do you think inspired this gravitation towards photography in our culture, like in our history?
Yeah, at a very early
I think it was that photo album, and it was really that X on the head. Because the X on the head for me was like my mum holding a baby with an X on the head. And you're like, who's that? What does that X mean? All those symbols are just wrapped up in one image. And you're like, whoa. And then you get told you had that older brother that didn't make it. You're like, okay. What else is going on in this book? You know, this is just my family. What about your family? What about everyone else's? What about the value of memories, stories? They should all be wrapped up in our books.
So throughout this conversation, you've made mention of your mom. Like, were you also with your dad?
No, not at all. No, my dad's European. He's but I never knew him. My mum was the matriarch.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's no coincidence that I've got 4 brothers and we all got different fathers from different continents.
Oh wow.
One of my brothers is the one that's had a problem. That was Mr. Asamoah's son. Then Kevin, his father is Jamaican, and then my older brother, whose father's Lebanese. So, and also all those things reflect Ghana and the different dynamics of Ghana, but also reflects going to Europe and that alliance that she formed with the Jamaicans, which I have to say is one of the greatest alliances ever. Honestly, they saved us, boy. We were out there. There's racism, and the Jamaicans came in with just like, you know that scene of like that thing in Alabama where it's like the fight's kicking off. You throw the hat in the air and suddenly the call and the Jamaicans.
To the rescue.
To the rescue, because they were real. They sat under their system. They learnt their language. They could cook their food better than the English. They could speak their language better than them, and they still got treated like shit. So, okay. And then for my attitude is like, I always knew I was different, so I never needed to ally with that model of thinking that this is the right way to live in a European society.
Were you born in London?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely born there, but as I said, I've been brought here to be a part of what was that dream. You know, and she had it. She had the Datsun 120Y.
Balling.
Classic. And then obviously it became the cab, and it was meant to be the money generator. Then she had the corn mill, and that was meant to generate this. But everything slowly, you know, what was never learned is how you manage people, how you manage your own family. And you're talking about people who maybe never had more than 1,000 cities in their bank account ever in their lives, and they're suddenly making tens of thousands. You just literally written them up. You just give them a death sentence. They're going to burn through that cash until they're dead. Because it just the mind, you know, we have to train ourselves to know how to use money.
Yeah. True.
My brother actually says that all the time. Where it's time to. I mean, he says it for selfish reasons as well, but sometimes when there's money to split, he'll be like, "Man, don't give these youngins these money, man. They're just gonna go out there and smoke their heads off and drink their heads off. So just let me hold it."
That's the other way. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna adopt a little thing from my oldest daughter, because I was talking to her mum the other day, and she was like, "We're gonna." She lives in Turkey, so she was like, "We're gonna do the Russian thing." And I was like, "What's that?" "Well, we're gonna give Aaliyah a house and a car, and that's it. We're done." I was like, "What? That's it?" "Yeah." "Okay, sounds cheap. I'm doing that." So it's the same thing, just the end. Russians.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from them.
Yeah. So when did photography seriously start for you?
I think maybe at 16, when I first sort of got the camera. A friend's father passed, and they left the camera behind, and you tried to figure it out. Once you figured it out, you got your shots, and the first time you shoot on film, it never comes out. And that's like the heartbreak makes you want to go again, because in your head you've remembered every single shot you wanted to see. So then second time around you do it, and then you start capturing the things. And for me, with the birth of hip hop and ragga and all those cultures coming through London, I just wanted to document that, because I realized that was the illest, flyest shit on the block. And that's where it's at. Like when you see people dressed, I see it in Ghana on a Sunday. You know, you go through the villages from Nkonya to Accra, and on a Sunday, the parade and the dress, it's like the culture of church is so powerful. Everyone looks like angels, you know, but the culture of music in London is what drives us and makes us look beautiful. And particularly in the 90s, when the black people, the white people, the working people all came together, we all started dancing together. We all started making this weird junglistic music together. And it made for a culture that could be exported, because what you realize with Europe is they don't actually have anything. And all they have, and so the only thing they've got is culture. That's the only thing they can sell, is these films, their ideas, their stories, which they've taken from other people. So I just felt, well, hold on, we can just intensify our culture and package it and tighten it up and knock it out the park. And obviously with Afro beats now, we can see the value of just culture. You know, just ideas, studios, dancing,
So, Fred Mel. So, why did you decide to go onto the streets and just take photos of people? And around that time too, like there were studios where you would go to have your shots taken. Why didn't you go that route? But you were like, nah, I'm rather going on the street.
Yeah, well, you know, firstly, the romance of photography. Some part of that romance is just being on the street, just being on the front line with the camera, and just being like telling the story of the street. But also, it's practically like I was running and gunning when I was younger. I had one camera, 35mm film, and just needed to just get the artist on the road, snap, and keep it moving. So I never really spent more than 15 or 20 minutes with the artist. It was just, so it kind of meant that I had to think like a street photographer, shoot like a street photographer, but you're still trying to make portraits, and you're still trying to make these portraits be like true to the person. You know, you want, and that's, so I kind of mixed those styles together, because, you know, the other day when you pulled out your Leica, I got triggered because I was like, you don't need the Leica, but you do need the Leica because the Leica is a flex. It's a powerful tool. But for me, I was the other guy. I could never afford the Leica, so it was really just always jealousy. Really, I couldn't afford the Leica. I got the cheaper camera, the cheaper lenses, but just had to make that stuff work. You know. Because there's always a sweet spot with a camera, no matter how good or bad it is. There's this wonderful point where it just records things perfectly, like the cosmic geometry, the way the lines up the frame, you know. And Leicas just give you that power. But at the same time, I'm like, when we were in front of the red dot, I'm like, I spent years not being able to afford a Leica, and now I got one. I feel like, have I not made, you know, sometimes the drive is not to try and be, what should I say, have the best or be the best. Sometimes the drive is just to just be there, present.
Yeah.
And just, yeah. So I've lost my train of thought slightly, but
yeah. I mean, why you went the street, street route?
Yeah, it's because I just wanted to be there for the street. I felt like that's where it happens. And I'm pulling back to Ghana every time I see myself catching the Uber over and looking out the window and thinking, wisdom cries in the streets. And that's a quote from the Bible. Wisdom cries in the streets. And then it goes on to say she, as if wisdom is a female that's in the streets.
Yeah.
So I caught that and I was like, yeah, wisdom does cry in the streets, and you're going to learn from her. So the streets give you X, but then what I get from the streets, I don't really apply because I'm not seen as a street photographer.
Yeah, yeah.
I just put people in the streets.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And shoot them just so that the portrait is in the street, not in the studio, not in the home. It's just in the place where it's there. But that said, as I've got older, I want to start a new project. Because I hear this talk from my generation of photographers going, we really deserve a seat at the table. I'm like, fuck that, get your own table. So I'm just going to shoot the black man's table. Just black men in front of their own tables. It's that simple. Like, we are the custodians of our own futures.
Yeah.
I like that you think like that. I want to ask you a question about your experience, because you have decades of shooting.
Yeah.
Some of the most iconic shots that I've seen. I didn't even realize this shot with Jay was taken by you. But what drove you? Like you said, you picked up a camera at 16.
Yeah.
And it all started with like a romantic experience, your mom and all that.
Yeah.
But what drove you to feel like this is an actual career that you...
Good question. I think it was like let's say I'm 16 in 1990, and by 1993, 94, I've turned professional because I've managed to sell a picture for the first time. Up until that point, I was just chasing anything and everything that I saw as beautiful and wanted to just really capture that and put it down on film. And then I shot J. Rue the Damager as he came to London.
Yeah.
And then on the camera that I've got in my bag today, because it's like 30 years later, the camera still works. And then London Records were like, yeah, this picture's dope. It's better than what we've got. But love to Danny Hastings. He took some great pictures. But it was a different look because I was in Europe and Danny was in New York. And so that was like, okay, I can monetize this. So sometimes when I shoot with 3 different cameras, I feel like each camera's got a voice, and one voice is for sale and one voice is for history. So many times it's just, and seeing that, and also I have to be, again, coming back to my mum, it's like I had a certain kind of freedom at home. I was never questioned as to what I was going to do or going to be. I just got into things and did it really well and kept it moving. And, and so I felt like by the monetization, once that came into play, it was a good time.
You figured you could do
I could do this
for real.
I could do this. I could see what people needed. I could recognize what they needed. And I knew that you could monetize that.
Okay.
And I'm going to continually do that.
Yeah.
And certainly recently when I'm doing like random proposals to like pharmaceutical companies, just to sort of look at, it's almost like it's a tactical move where I'm like, I want to do a project around sickle cell. It's an important part of our community. We need to talk about this. We need to have these conversations about sickle cell, prostate cancer, and breast cancer, particularly in women, and really just engineering conversations with the stakeholders, i.e. the people that make the drugs or the health people, and just getting them to commission more portraits so we can tell more stories.
Right.
That's me recognizing that their messaging of just putting the box on the thing isn't the answer. It's the real people going through the real issues with the real conversations that we can put behind it.
So you were photographing like everybody.
Yeah.
Like Fred just said that, he saw a Jay-Z photo and he never thought. Okay, before I ask this question, how much money did you make from your first photo?
£75.
£75.
Yeah.
Dope.
And
let's give it. Dope.
£75. That's in '94.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good deal. I was never been a very good agent for my work. I was just, because I shoot first before I ask questions, or I shoot first before I put the invoice in. So essentially, I was just a stalker
Yeah, so I was coming to that, right?
Yeah.
So you've shot basically everybody.
Yeah. Mainly through stalking, like.
Yeah, Mos Def, Talib Kweli,
Yeah.
Jay-Z,
So-
Biggie,
yeah.
Method Man, the Wu-Tang,
Yeah.
like everybody.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Everybody, like
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
How were you getting them? Like, were you going to New York? Did you have an agent? Like, how were you getting everybody to photograph?
I think it's like waves. The first wave was the stalking wave. So that was the Wu-Tang, Biggie, 93, 94, just basically going around, working out where their hotels were, just
How
hanging
did you
out.
know that they were staying here?
Journalists, press departments, tour managers, they become your friends. And so you sort of work out very quickly what's happening, what's going on. You start taking the pictures, and then you kind of start selling them to magazines. The magazines, then the next wave is then you start shooting editorial for magazines. Then after that, I also worked in television as well. There was a thing called The Box.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember The Box. Music, television, you control. So I was making like small directorial programs, like what they used to call box talks, where people would come on, hey, my name's Jay-Z and this is my box talk, and then you cut to the video and cut back out. Loved the format, 4 or 5 minutes long. But with that, I could travel. So I started going to New York almost like on a twice weekly basis throughout the 90s. And it gave me a chance to call people up, because sometimes back in the day, you'd buy the record. On the back of the record is a telephone number, a fax machine. You could pick up that record. You can call. You can speak to management. You can say, yo, I'm coming from London. I work for so-so-so and so-and-so. You're lying. But then you get the airtime. You get the airtime. You get the most important airtime you need. So,
Okay. Dope. Let me pick one person so you tell us about that experience. Oh, Fred, do you want to pick one person?
No, you go ahead. And then I'll ask.
I would say Jay-Z.
Yeah.
How did you manage to get Jay-Z, and how was the experience like, photographing him?
all right. So first time round, Jay-Z, he's just released a single, Ain't No Jigger Like the One I Got. He just put it out, independent. So he's an independent artist. On the back of the label would be his label's number.
Yeah.
Most likely him or his cousin will answer the phone, because there's a small operation. Went to New York, with the first one to put him in the magazine in London, because we went out there to represent independent record labels. And at that time, I realized that all these independent labels had great products, completely underground, but they had no visual iconography, because they were like graphic designer, but no photography. So I started servicing them with photography. So I was like, I'll shoot all your rappers, I'll send you back the pictures, just use them, they're for you guys. So I shot Jay, I shot Raucus. With Raucus, it led on to Mos Def, Black Star, and shooting their album cover. But with Jay, it was like representing for the independents. Soon after that, Jay gets signed to a UK label that licenses and distributes his music.
Okay.
And so that kind of worked. So you so what the Americans realize is that the British media, the English-speaking language of Britain, goes to the planet. It travels.
Okay.
So UK journalists have a certain kind of leverage.
Yeah.
And then the next time around, Jay-Z's doing other albums, and this time it's editorial, and that's really nice to shoot a basic shoot, and that's cool. And I think there was another shoot after that as well. But for me, I generally like to work with the artists really early on. When they're way before it's all kicked in.
Yeah, it looks like the shot you had of him was like, he was really young. He had like a plaid shirt under the coat.
Exactly.
Was that on the street?
Yeah, essentially he came down to the hotel I was staying at in Soho Grand, and I was like, yo, can we go outside and shoot? And for me, there was this sort of two Jay-Z's. The first Jay-Z was the one that I shot as a b-boy in the car park across the road. And as he crossed the road back into Soho Grand, you felt him change into this uptown Jay-Z. So you can kind of see the progression. That was his tipping point, from being street to executive, going from rocking oversized T-shirts to plaid Ralph Lauren shirts. No, Versace. It was a Versace shirt.
Wow.
You'd think Ralph Lauren in that era, but no, he's still wearing Versace. It's all there. He didn't drive. A young lady drove him there, and it was just business. So you can kind of see the future progression. I just want to catch that. I love catching that early on. I love being the guy who just that ear to the ground. So you just catch them early, before the noise, before the problems, before more money, more problems. So same with Biggie. Just before the album really blew. Yeah,
that's the one I'm curious about, because that's also a very famous shot with the Coogee sweater under the jacket.
Yeah.
I didn't know the history of the photographer, but I'm very like that's one of his most iconic photos. How did that happen?
Yeah, that became iconic. It's just like basically found out what hotel he was in, went upstairs, knocked on his door, got him out of bed because it's one of those. You ain't gonna get him twice, you know what I mean? So we just literally got him out of bed. And the thing about it was, although he came out of bed, he was literally as Biggie, like man went to bed like that and wakes up like that. Just Coogee, Versace, Kangol, just wow, Timbs, black Timbs, just the uniform, hip hop, you know, the
He
core
had it
of
down
it.
pat. Yeah.
Down, yeah. So in the lift, down we go. I don't have time, so I'm like, I'm the one that gets the first shoot in, first thing in the morning, take him out to the car park, shoot him against the horizon. And in my mind, I just wanted to build this guy as the icon. So my frame goes below his eye line, he looks into the distance and I catch that shot. I took 9 shots of Biggie, then I was out. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? Was it supposed to be quick?
I'm always quick. I don't really waste time.
Oh, okay.
I just kind of feel like that's me done. And then I've burnt off the rest of the film just shooting Craig Mack, who was being an idiot at the time. But lyrically, I love Craig Mack. So. And then I think the last shot is like Biggie sitting in his chair like that with a bottle of champagne there. It's like 9 a.m. Wow. You know, my man's in full character. Like I'd say characters of, you know, rappers in the 90s were just, they were like comic book characters. They were in their shit. That's who they were. And whereas I noticed that the new school rappers, they like went to college and studied it. Yeah. And they're very well versed at it and very good at it, but they haven't become the Method Man or the Biggie or, you know, Mary J. Blige, who just carries all our pain, you know? Like, you know.
Yeah. I want you to tell us one interesting story, like stalker story. Like because I know that there should be one interesting one. You've photographed basically everybody from the Wu-Tang to Nas. There is this Nas photo of you that I really like, standing by the window.
Peace sign.
Yeah.
I think J-Lo is the most interesting one.
J-Lo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I spent maybe 3 or 4 days with her shooting video, and I only took one picture because I just felt so sorry for her. Like, she seemed like the loneliest person on earth. That moment in life when you realize that I've got all this money, all this fame, and I couldn't be more lonely or sadder. And I remember saying to the backup dancer, like, yo, Jenny, she just needs a hug, yo. Like, someone, she's just give her a hug. Like, she needs to have someone by her side. That fucking prick proposed to her that week, and she said fucking yes. So that's when she married the fucking backup dancer. For 6 fucking months.
You're
like,
kidding.
What a fucking jerk. Like, what, you couldn't recognize that in her already? And you just like, oh, this could be my time. My time to shine. Married J-Lo for 6 months. Look it up. Chris Judd. Hold on.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, and the guy was younger than him or something. The guy was younger than her or something.
Yeah, she needed
It happened so suddenly. He was the white jeans wearing backup dancer.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting story that, you know, behind the scenes, you're talking to him about what you're experiencing real, and he sees an opportunity.
That's how I see it. And you know, Chris could sue me, I suppose, but you know, we're in Africa, right?
Yeah, the court system here would take another 15 years.
Where did you shoot that Nas photo? Was it in New York or was it in?
It was in London. It was in a hotel upstairs.
Did you stalk?
No, that was thankfully that was like, well, it was kind of bugging the Columbia Record Company press officer that, yo, if Nas comes, Nas, you know, bring him my way, because these albums come out as demos. You hear the demos before the albums drop. You know Nas is the one. He's just written his own career in one album. And that was a lovely morning, literally. And that's the other thing as well, making sure there's enough weed for MCs, because these guys need something for their thoughts. You know, that's how they're built. So I make sure in the morning, it's a Monday morning, just coming from Paris, he needs a little something to feel at home. And there he is smoking a London spliff, you know. Welcome to the world. Welcome to London.
Wow.
You don't really taste home until you smoke what's coming out of its earth. And London's got its thing, Ghana's got its thing. In fact, the whole planet's got its thing.
Yeah. So, you go?
No, go ahead.
So, is there an artist that you wish you could photograph then that you never did?
Oh man, I think the obvious one is like Eric B. and Rakim as a duo.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because they're like the classic school of rap. They're also a duo where the DJ and the MC were like a partnership that would go out on road and just take care of it.
Yeah.
And I still think that's one of the best formulas ever. Like, to break down the whole band to 2 people and 2 turntables and a microphone is genius.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, what U-Mans is doing is genius. I can see this working on stage.
Yeah. So did he ever come to your side?
Not really. Not in that.
Really.
Well, when he did in that era, I was too young to be able to engage with that. But that said, Rakim now, as the elder statesman, with all his lines on his face, and it'd be like a nice story to tell, like in terms of like the retrospective.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of.
You know what's crazy about Rakim is that before the conversation in hip hop became real with who the GOAT is, he was the first GOAT.
Yeah.
The first person that was recognized as the greatest of all time, as far as I can remember.
Yes.
Like, that title was not bestowed on anyone prior to Rakim. I think Rakim is the first one that came out. He didn't put it on himself. Somebody, like, everybody generally said, okay, Rakim is the GOAT. And then it started becoming a debate between the newer school, Nas.
Yeah.
It would be good for you to take some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're describing now, I even feel like Rakim is maybe being slept on.
Yeah. Because I think seeing Rakim on, I think it was the NPR thing, and he was doing it like live with the jazz band, and you're like, he's a jazz musician. This is that Venn diagram between jazz and hip hop, and he sits right in the middle. He can go on tour with a jazz band, and it would just be the most flawless show you've ever seen. Just tight poetry and rhythm.
Yeah,
and it was just like the whole science of hip hop condensed. You know, just all in one performance.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it there for Rakim.
So now, do you still have it difficult photographing like these celebs who come to the UK, or things have changed from you stalking to you getting calls,
exactly,
and bookings?
Yeah, the pecking order's changed. I'm not in line in the same way to shoot, and no one really knows the kind of things I'm into anymore, because I'm not actually out there actively looking for subjects to shoot that meet that side of my portfolio. I'm lucky enough that there's a new generation of artists that come through that want to be a part of my lineage, and what's interesting is a lot of them are the ones that are fans of Aaliyah or Mary J. Blige, just want me to shoot almost on the same camera, to do the same kind of setup, but with them in that styles, just so they're part of this lineage. And I think that's kind of interesting. So I'm kind of glad about that, which is why I've kept this camera going, because it's still like, it's my iconic camera. I'm the one that wants to sort of say, like, I really made this camera, put a stamp on the Bronica ETRSI.
What does it take to keep a camera like that for that long in terms of maintenance, the technical aspect of?
So some cameras are by now we know what the main flaws of most cameras are, and so let's say with a Bronica, if anything goes wrong with that, it's usually in the back, and you can always replace.
Is that
the
what
back. That's
okay.
the one. That's the one I use, and I'm going to use today. The Bronica ETRSI, which has an interchangeable back. It's like a.
Can we see it? Let me. Should I bring it?
Yeah, let's bring it. Actually, I just realized something. I don't think I brought that camera with me. I did bring a camera with me, but I brought the Mamiya. So, did I? Yeah.
Let's see some cameras.
So this is the camera I'm rolling with today, the Minolta Auto Cord. I think it's probably 57 or maybe 67. This camera was made. The optics on this are beautiful.
You mean 19?
Yeah. So it's around 70 years old. Do you know what? We did a shoot together.
Yeah.
And I reckon, let me send those shots over. Right at the end of the video, if you've managed to make it through, you're going to see what you managed to pull together on this camera.
Yeah.
I'm going to process it and scan it, and I'll send you the scans.
Yeah.
So hopefully it makes the edit.
Please.
Just to sort of show that this camera still works, and you can see the spirit of the camera when it's out on the road as well. It disarms people in a way no other camera does.
Yeah.
The 2 lenses. But I rely on, and this camera I've dropped many times, but there's an old man, he's getting in his 80s. His children build nuclear weapons. Absolute genius. He repairs my cameras.
Wow.
And there is always going to be a hope in this world, a guy who knows how to repair these things, because they don't have batteries in it. They're purely mechanical.
Wow.
And obviously the most expensive component now is the film. but I'm invested. I've bought film cassettes and records for the last 30 years. I'm invested. I think once they make the last roll of film is probably when I stop shooting photography, because it's for me the medium is the message, and the medium is what's on film. And once you print that medium in the right way, the colors. And this comes right down to photography in Ghana, particularly our light, our sand, our soil, our everything. The colors just hit so hard in Ghana. It's like we've got this Hollywood thing going on that we just need to engineer how we use it. I mean, you guys are all, you know how to use it. You mans know how to put your filters on when you have to shoot.
Fred. Your Instagram filters.
I need to work on my posting and stuff. I don't do as much of that. But you've spoken about so many things that I want to ask follow-up questions to. And I think I want to start with this particular. You were talking about earlier your mom.
Yes.
And you said she can't read.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And she had this ambition to build and all of that. So you're a child of an immigrant.
Yeah, exactly.
Living in the UK, wanting to start photography or get into photography at 16. I don't know how much of, in the US, you have this idea of African booty scratcher. You don't really fit in. You're not really part of the culture, society. So we found ourselves, most of us, wanting to identify as Jamaican, blah, blah, blah. How did that affect your self-esteem in the space that you were trying to get into? Because you're trying to photograph like all these, acts that are generally American or London people who may belong to the soil, and you're feeling like I'm a child of an immigrant. Did that ever like come into play, or you just felt like you were one of?
No, you see, this is the wonderful thing about big cities. It's like you can be in England and not feel English at all, but you're definitely a South Londoner. And when people ask you where you're from, you go South. They go, okay, they know. And I suppose the same could be said about Chicago. Like, which side are you from? It says everything about you. And even as an immigrant, it says that you came in on the bottom run, and you're gonna, because that's the dream, right? You start at the bottom, work your way up. So I felt like as a Londoner, I could own it, and my confidence grew as a Londoner. But I think more importantly, this is where the love of hip hop and Rastafarianism comes from, is that it also gave you an identity that allowed you to see beyond, allowed you to see into the history and why my mother isn't an immigrant. She's actually, it's the colonial debt. She's coming back for what's owed to her. She's actually just got enough heart to come and look you in the eye and take it off you. Not even take it off you, just earn it. She went in. She came back. She didn't. She didn't have to come on a boat or nothing. They needed it because Europe had basically murdered each other for like 5 years, and there was no one left. Someone had to rebuild their country. Jamaicans did that, Africans did that, and at that point we learned a lot about the geopolitics that has forced all of us to be running around this planet like we're strangers, when in fact, it's politics, it's capitalism, it's all of those things. And the identity that London gave me was enough for me to feel like, I could be any city, anywhere, and I can hold myself up. And I suppose deep down inside the Accra in me too, because I didn't see any distinction between myself and all these other cats that really came from similar slums of Shaolin, like I didn't really go out my way and photograph the nice people. I photographed the hood cats. I photographed Snoop and his dad. Like I'm here for.
Yeah, I saw that was a dope.
I'm here for us. So I was leveling everyone else up. It's now in this time that they all look like superstars, but back then they were just my fans. They were my people and my photography. And this is why much of my best work I never got paid for, because it's my fan work. It's the things that I love. And it was Tumblr and those kind of places that took my photographs from wherever they found it and started amplifying it and using it to represent their icons and their heroes. Which is the whole point of photography in the first place, because it's a gift. You're generous enough with your art to make people look beautiful. The other day, we're walking down the street. A woman's feeling great about herself. She almost felt you coming, going, oh, where's the photographer? And there you were. There you were. And the gift is that image of her self-esteem shining. So I felt like, that identity thing, It was an interesting thing, but no, I was grounded. I came back from Ghana back to England, having had a better education in St. Bernadette's than anything in that left.
Oh, you went to St. Bernadette?
I went to St. Bernadette's. So 3 years there gave me a better education than anyone in London. So I knew I could read better than them, count better than them, run better than them. I could still play football barefooted. That just destroyed them. They didn't know what to do with themselves. And that's the one skill I wish I never gave up, that I could play football on gravel without any shoes on.
Wow.
Because once you start wearing shoes, you just become a pussy overnight.
Yeah.
I still see mans on road out here, no shoes. I'm like, respect.
Yeah. That's
Dope. So, I mean, I'm because I'm a photographer. I'm so interested in the photography aspect. Even though we'll go to you being an author and you being an educator, you took a photo of the Wu-Tang, right?
Yeah.
But you also focused on the Old Dirty Bastard.
Yeah.
ODB. Shells. How was it like photographing him?
ODB. My brother's got psychosis. ODB had psychosis. There was no denying it. The only thing that got ODB in front of the camera was Marvin Gaye. When did you stop loving me? When did I stop loving you? Now, the thing to remember about life and love is that Marvin Gaye's got a song for when you fall in love and you are in the best place you've ever been with love. He's got a song for when you've fallen out of love and you are hurting from divorce. And Hear My Dear album is a divorce album. The story goes that he divorces his wife, and his judge says all the proceeds from your next album has to go to your wife. He's like, fuck it then, I'm going to write the whole album about my wife and about the divorce. And that's what he did. And
that's what Marvin did?
Yeah, the Hear My Dear album. And listen to it. It was Anna's song. The wife's called Anna. It's like, it's deep, it's personal. I mean, I don't think it would ever come out in this age. But the point was, when did you stop loving me? When did I stop loving you? Is being played on the stereo, and he walks in and starts singing it, picks up the bottle of Baileys, starts drinking and starts singing it, because that's where his heart was at. And at that point, he was completely disarmed, and I just start shooting.
Wow.
But before that, they weren't interested in the shoot. They were just bickering. Because if you ever on the coach of the Wu-Tangs, back then, they were just wild. They were like, not everyone gets on, you know what I mean? You know, they could all agree on what music to play, but they only played like really old soul. Proper soul music.
Yeah.
I think deep down inside, they're all soul heads.
Yeah.
And, you know, coming back to Ghana, I discovered my tapes, which I shipped all over here. And those tapes are still like, basically, they're all breakup tapes. Yeah. You know, just there to just heal you back and bring you back in the room, you know?
Yeah. You photographed Will Smith too.
Yeah, Will was weird. That guy was weird. That guy was weird. That really, still to this day. So I have this really weird camera. It's a Olympus half frame, Olympus pen. It means you can get 72 pictures on a normal roll of film instead of 36. So, and I use it to mimic film, so you can just shoot really quickly, so you get these continuous frames. Yeah. And after like 7 or 8 shots, you could see his face change. He's like, he's gonna kill me. Yeah. And I was like, okay,
he was impatient.
Yeah, he just didn't want to know. And I was like, okay, I'll leave that there. I did explain to him, yo, I'm going to finish this roll of film. Just stand there and I'll I'm just burning off every shot. Yeah. It wouldn't have taken more than like a minute and a half to finish the film. But I just wanted every shot to be of Will, just so it repeats itself. Yeah. It's just a stylistic thing. And I thought, you know, he's an actor, you take direction. No, he just wanted to snap, keep it moving. But again, I think deep down inside, he must have felt like a fraud. Some of the music he was putting out was just not right. You know, it felt like it was all ghostwritten, and it felt like he never paid his ghostwriters.
How about Fred? Should I ask this last question?
Yeah, I know you have a slew of people you want to check in.
How about Maxwell?
Maxwell was lovely, really, really nice guy. Interviewed him for The Box. Just a really, just a great guy, like. Just a great New York sort of guy, just really cool cat, and just took 1 or 2 snaps. I couldn't really get the great Maxwell, because he doesn't perform that well. He's like, he's an underperformer. He under his body. His body's always like awkward. Not in a great, but obviously when he performs, he's great. But if he doesn't have to, he won't turn it on. Yeah. You know, and some people just have it on all the time.
Which would you say subjects of your work were closest to their actual, let's say, stage or I don't want to say just stage, but like their art persona. You know, like some people are like, oh, this is the Jay-Z guy, but behind the scenes he's a completely different guy. Or this guy is Method Man, but behind the scenes he's a serious businessman who is only going by the book, like blah, blah, blah. Which personality would you say was just as close to their public?
I feel really blessed that pretty much everyone in the 90s felt like they were exactly what they said they were on the box. In that way, like DMX was DMX. I never shot DMX, but DMX was just DMX. And his biography is amazing for that, because even in it, he says, I realized when I started out my career as a beatboxer, beatboxers never get girls. So I became an MC. It's like, yeah, you can almost hear his way of thinking and the way he rhymes, and it's all wrapped up in the perfect package. Very rarely, and the thing about that as a photographer is that the Method Man, all of those cats, when they come to you, they come fully made, fully worked out, that you just press the shutter and you've got the most amazing photography. I don't have to do the work. Whereas if the person hasn't got that, I have to do a lot of work.
Whose idea was it? Now with the Method Man with the thing?
Method Man, he was like, oh, let me show you my new trick. Payal. And then, what's it called? Ghostface was like, oh, let me show you what I can do. And he climbs up the wall like Spider-Man and, gives it that. And Old Dirty Bastard, they are just all being their human self every day.
So Method Man with the eye thing, with the white stuff over it, that was his idea?
Yeah, it was like, he showed me this trick where he can pull his cap back over his eye so the whites of his eye come out. It's like, yeah, that's wicked. Yeah, it's wicked. There's only one. Like, fuck yeah.
I think that's one of the most iconic hip hop images ever, because it just makes him so distinct. I remember that. I didn't know you took that shot, by the way. So today I was crazy. Like pleasantly amazed seeing all, because Method Man used to be one of my. Well, let me not say used to be. He was one of my favorite MCs. But now he's seen more as an actor than a rapper, which is weird. But Method Man is serious stuff.
You mentioned James Banner at the beginning of this, conversation. How did you meet him, and have you worked with him? Yeah,
James Banner is an important part of my story, because it kind of, when I hit my mid-career, as it were, you're going to hit mid-career, you're going to hit 20, 30 years into your career, you're going to look back, you're going to look forward, you're going to be a little bit like, where do I go from here? And then you seek out the wisest, eldest statesman of Ghanaian African photography. And he's in London. He's living in a care home, and his story hasn't come out. And his work is he's a supreme technician. He doesn't miss a shot. Every frame is perfectly composed, perfectly exposed, perfectly shot. And this is a man who'd worked for Daily Graphic for so many years, was Nkrumah's photographer for so many years, had his own studio in Jamestown, Forever Young, has captured so many of our uncles and aunties over so many years, that you had to get a sense of perspective from him. And his perspective was sound, and his perspective allowed me a chance to relax and just keep doing it, and not panic and not fear and not get caught up in anxieties, but rather just, it's the long path. So I was working with an older photographer called Charlie Phillips, who is, again, a West Indian photographer whose specialism is funerals. The Afro-Caribbean funeral is one of the most amazing experiences you'll ever have. 9 days after the body goes in, 9 days after the person passes, there's what's known as a 9 night, where everyone comes around to your house, drinks goat soup, gets wasted, smokes weed, and plays tunes loud, just to set the whole thing off. Then the funeral happens, there's food, there's family, there's sound systems, there's everyone by the grave singing, everyone's smoking weed and drinking, and everyone's just, it's wild. And there you are for 50 years capturing these moments in the community. And you could see in one of these most amazing shots, this woman with a shopping trolley, and she's at the market and she hears so-and-so passes, so she has to come to the funeral. And then you see the woman 20 years later singing by a graveside of another woman, and then you see the woman's family standing by the graveside as she's been buried, and there's like 50 of them, all of them with her face. You're getting the whole community all represented, dressed up. Jamaican families, at the funeral, that's when you find out who your second family is. You know, because that's when the fight starts, when the second family wants a little moment at the podium.
Yeah.
And you didn't find out about second family till the
Wow.
funeral. Or better yet, you don't even know what your father's government name was.
Yeah.
Because Jamaicans have this thing about nicknaming each other, and the nickname sticks. So you
Yeah.
never know your dad was called Alvin or, you know, whatever random colonial name, because everyone knew him as Fix It or,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow. So what work have you done for James? Like, have you guys
with James,
shot together or what?
I rebuilt his Forever Young studio. That was the first time I worked with James, when I was asked to partner up with him to help him build his studio, because he's in his 90s. He's still fit, but you know, I had to go up the pole and climb it. The man chastised me, just told me how wrong my lighting was, how my curtains aren't fitted right, this, that. And I did it in my style, like in the 90s, the way we did it. And he was like, nah, that's just weak. So I was like, okay, this is why I know I'm gonna learn from this man, because he put me in my place, told me to set the curtains up really nicely, which I couldn't do, so I got my daughter to do it, because I don't know how to do that stuff. And just learnt his discipline for the art and the craft of portraiture. And then beyond that, it was about the negatives that he had in his house, under his bed, that had yet to be seen by anybody. And I'd worked out, once working with Charlie Phillips, a really quick way of documenting digital, analog material. So I'll have a light box, I'll build a light box, take 2 lights, perspex, have light coming from underneath, put a negative on top, put a digital camera on top of that, have a remote control, and have someone just pass the negatives over the light and the camera. And then you keep shooting. And then in Lightroom, you automate it. So when it comes in, it inverts the image and converts it into pictures. Yeah. And what I want to see with James Barner particularly was his contact sheets, shot 1 to shot 15, all in linear order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see his methodology then. And you can see which one becomes the money shot and the lead up to it. And as I said with James, he never got a shot wrong. He told me, you know, in Ghana, I was the king of groups. He would shoot a group shot of over 200-300 people. Everyone's perfect. And you know group shots are different. You know those shots I'm talking about. Where one row.
It goes all the way to the top.
He's the king. He wrote the recipe on that, on how you get it right. The tables, the angles, the camera, the frame, the building in the background. We've seen them so often. That stuff's not easy.
At all.
You got one shot.
Yeah.
And I know he did it in no more than 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of, that was going
So basically, James is a pro. Like, what I hear is actually true.
Yeah. Oh, a god, trained by Victorians, trained by the original people that had the cameras when they were invented. So, and this was before the original cameras are these big boxes, glass negatives, just impossible things to walk around with. Then came 120 film, 35mm, all these new formats. He was trained in the original system. And he would go follow his uncle around into the villages to do portraits of all the chiefs. So you'd set the chief up, set the whole thing up, expose the glass plate. Then in the afternoon, after you've developed the glass plate, dried the glass plate, you'd then have to turn the camera into a dark room. So you'd go into a tent or a cloth, and then James would always say the smell of sulfur freaked him out because he would have to light matches to create light to expose the negative onto the paper to then sell the print back to the chief, because that's how you get paid. On the print, you get paid. The currency of photography is always the print.
The final print.
The final print. So
he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's going to be 100 in 3 years' time.
Wow. We hope he lives to see that. So you're talking about him here. I'm admiring so much without even experiencing him directly. But what would you say to, this is how I'm thinking about it, because you're saying he was trained by the original people who handle the camera. And do you think there's a level of technical understanding that gets lost over certain generations simply because James, for instance, had to understand every aspect of what he was doing, what pulling the glass would do? Like, to me, a layperson, this glass talk and you saying you had to get an inverted image and a quick way for you to document that because you found something under his bed, and I can understand how it would be a tedious experience if you're just going to do it one by one. So now when somebody has, because they have the technical understanding, knows how do I short circuit the whole process because I know this stuff, the technical aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's the crux of my question. How much of it is allowing you to be what I would consider a well-versed photographer versus everybody being able to pick up an iPhone now and say, I'm a photographer, when they're just not really understanding the craft.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question because exactly that is the craftsmanship of the original thing. But photography, and this is why it's interesting with James Barner, and what I learned from him is that over the years, it's just been dumbed down. From what the Victorians had to do to what we do today is so different that it's just made it more and more accessible, more and more democratic. But by myself going back in time, I'm now trying to find, it's making me more of an artist. So suddenly there's the democracy of photography versus the purity of the craft, and trying to create these images on paper using old materials now, which is part of the reason why I started buying old cameras. I started buying old materials and started using them to try and it just, I started realizing, hold on, mid-career, now I can just branch left and go into art. Because sometimes with photography, mid-career, you go into education. And you become an educator because you're so experienced. You need to look back and actually you just need a day job, and you might as well just lean on what you know. But this way, I thought working with James, I can go into art because I realized the medium is the message. The material you use is part of the art of it all, and the democracy of it all, and people not needing to know the craft is interesting because now look what AI is doing to them.
Yeah.
And so once you know, what do they say in them reggae records? If the capitalist is your shepherd, you will always want. You know, you're going to be paying for their filters for the rest of your life. Whereas the old model was you'd buy one device and that would be your device for life. But I still love the democracy of it because I learned from some of the new generation, particularly some of the Nigerian photographers I've seen who came from the iPhone generation of photographers. They've really advanced the consciousness of photography. And I'm like, okay. Because this is the thing. We grew up with things. In the future, we won't have things. We'll have pictures of things. So how do we manipulate the pictures of things that our future generations are going to be learning from? Ooh, I mean, that's for you, man, to work out.
So to like back, you know, Fred's question, right? So would you call a photographer who doesn't know how to develop film, right? But he's well versed in the digital, you know, age stuff. Is that person a real photographer?
I don't know. I mean, you could argue on the hard line that he's a photographer, like FAUX, like fake photographer, you know. But at the same time, he's serving photography's needs now.
Yeah.
And so he is a photographer for all intensive purposes. But the analog side of it, and I would say to that photographer, learn the analog side because it gives you your craft back.
Okay.
You no longer have to give your client this roll of film. That's yours. You own the rights to that. That's all your work. And so you deserve to have that. Because yes, you're going to be servicing photography. If you're successful, you've got the photos going on, you've got the video going on, you're working for all your clients. You are not ever going to be represented. Who you are and what you are will never be seen. You are invisible because your clients paid for that. So I would say to that photographer, definitely learn it, but don't see it as a handicap if you don't know. But it honestly will change the way you see. And I want those photographers to start looking at what their currency truly is. Is it what's on paper or is it what you sell as a JPEG?
Okay.
And I think some of it...
But you can print your JPEGs.
You can print your JPEGs, and I think you should, because you need to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And also, when you print your film, you'll see colors. There's things that you'll see in color printing that I think will help you make your digital work more interesting.
Wow.
And again, it just advances what the different languages that you can learn ultimately to sell to your client. Yeah. Because they just need fresh looks all the time.
I mean, film is dope. The whole process of, you know, I see it as, you know, like caring for, like a mom caring for, you know, their child and all that. You have to massage everything to get the final thing, right?
Physically as well.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
Right? We all love tech.
Yeah.
For people who sing or who had bands back in the day, they had to travel, I'm sure, miles to go and book a studio and wait and all that. Back in the day, my mom would go walk all the way to PNT to book to receive a call from her bro in the States. Now we have phones in our pockets.
Yes.
Now that guy who sings, who raps, who does jazz can be in their bedroom and record a Grammy-winning, tape. Photos too. Like, I mean, we all have. Fred can take a selfie and print it tomorrow. Right? Why don't we move with the times? Right? Why don't we move with the times? But anytime I hear a photographer talk about film, they talk like, they are the real G's. They are the real, photo guys. Yeah. But this new age photographer didn't meet film. They met DSLRs. It's not his fault.
No, not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
Yeah. So what's your take on that? Like, it's I'm sure if you met digital DSLRs, you wouldn't have done film at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly. I think it's an issue of the time we're in.
Yeah.
Because the DSLR was a copy of the film camera.
Yeah.
And so there was always this back door leading you back. The terminology on the camera, everything was just leading you back to film. ISOs. Doesn't make any sense having an ISO on a digital camera. It's for film.
Yeah.
But as film, certainly with Blackmagic, and certainly once those photography film manufacturers stopped making cameras and this new generation came along, that's when cameras became exciting for me again. And the art of recording for me now, if I'm buying digital, is to record video. Because that tells a much more, that's what digital can do so much better than photography can in that way. And it is a weird, but I think because we're in this time where the romance of film is still strong, people feel like they need to lean back on the old way. I just say, just learn it mentally, and then you can then reproduce it digitally. And that's my thing. And I think I live in a luxury where I live in a bubble where I can still, because of my links, because I bought so much film and camera, I just basically banked everything. So I'm locked in my lane until the materials run out. And when the materials run out, I'm flipping into art. And then maybe into video, but really I'm flipping into art.
Do you think it will get to a time where like firms won't be doing films again? Do you think a time will come where there will be a hard stop to film?
No. No, film's just going to be a rich man's toy. And that elitism and capitalism loves that. Just loves that stuff. So people are going to pay top coin to shoot film. And I think then from my perspective is making sure that A, I've got all the cameras, and B, I stay on, deliver for the clients, make sure they get that magic that they want. And for me, what people fail to realize is in the film. So now you have to stock certain ranges of film that don't exist anymore.
So I wanted to ask you a question, because you're a photographer as well, and I want your take on it as well, Eddie. He's asking you about being born in the times and going with the technology that's prevalent, with your time. And it makes logical sense, obviously, because somebody also can tell us to go back to the bow and arrow. Somebody could say, go back and, just cook your meat on the fire. Why do you need a stove? So that question is an endless, you can always harken back to the past and say, let's hold on to that. But I think what I want to ask from you both is the experiences that I had as a child, and even I'm having now. My granddad passed last year, so I had to go and dig up his stuff. And one of the most intimate things I experienced was going through his wardrobe and his closets and picking up actual pictures that he had taken over the years, which was an evolution of he himself, the family around him, yada, yada. And I just got to sit for almost 3 hours lost in dealing with them. And for me, the digital world that we live in now, I have a password on my phone, which I will never tell anyone. So God forbid something happens to me now. My mom cannot sit and reminisce about my life that I have kept in the phone. Neither can anybody. I don't have any kids, so that's not a problem. Unless I had a significant other or a loved one. They couldn't go through those memories, touch, feel, and experience those things. So that's one part of the question. How do you guys feel about what photography, in that sense, does for the human spirit, the ability to connect? And then the other part of the question I wanted to ask you, especially what Mutombo was saying, is like, I'm now trying to build myself a Land Rover Defender.
Nice.
And even, let's say maybe 6 years ago, no one really cared.
Yeah.
You see those trucks running around the streets, manual, everybody's like, man, this old ass military or whatever. It usually used to be government people.
Yeah.
They're selling those beasts for $240,000 right now. $120,000. People are redoing. Everybody is so into the originality, and it was actually voted the best designed car in the history of vehicles, I think by some reputable organization. I guess the question there is it nostalgia? It's just simply nostalgia and romanticization rather than, I actually think the Defender is a freaking beautiful truck.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Are you talking about the old one?
The old one. How do you feel about the old Defender versus the new Defender in terms of photography, as I have described it, with being able to pick up a picture, going to your house, and while I'm waiting for you to come from the room, I'm being served a drink, but I get to look through a photo album.
Nostalgia one, and also we like being sentimental about stuff. But I miss having a photo album in my, living room. It was a brown photo album, had pictures of my family, basically. Would I ever go through that? Nah. Maybe, like, if I have time on my hands, take time to print my photos, and I have done prints before, for myself and for people, and I have a cool ass, like, a camera, a Polaroid Insta camera that would shoot and print right there and then. But I'm still close to my to my nice cam, not my Polaroid or any of my 2 film cameras. I feel we enjoy that. Oh, this is how we used to do it back in the day. This is my time. This was my time. Like, but not me. Not me. Maybe Eddie has.
So before Eddie comes in, I'm saying, how do you want Kwesi Dems to experience your work?
Okay, so I was also going to touch on your phone and your password thing. Same for me. I have a password on my phone. I hardly print the photos that I take because I'm always taking photos. It's not like film where I have to go and buy the film and come and put it in my phone and start taking 36 shots, and I have to take it out. This is right there, and then I can decide to take 1,000 pictures this very minute. The unfortunate thing is, it's just for me. Because like I said earlier, it's work to print some of these photos. Even though I have done it, I don't do it every day. But I have a shared, folder, right, where someone else has, access, right. So knock on wood, if tomorrow I'm done, they might not get all because I haven't put pictures in that folder for a very, very, very long time. Now that you are saying it, I have to, go back and dump, photos in, especially photos of us, of my kids, and all that. But Charlie, it is sad, and like, knock on wood, if I fall today, that's it. And these are proper family photos from when Kwesi was being born, from when Adobia was being born. Like, I have, a whole stream of shots.
I have to say, I think you hit the nail on the head when he talks about the image being a connection to the past. Yeah. And particularly the print, because even the quality of the print is in the past as well. Yeah. But what we're missing is, the missing link is the service, the photography service, the thing that Kodak invented. You press the button, we do the rest. Yeah. That's what he invented. And it gave us the luxury of just being able to just have these little things turn up at our doorsteps that we could curate and tell our stories with. And without that middleman, it's going to be very difficult to actually tell that story. Yeah. Because ideally, that middleman is only going to charge you no less than this, maybe 20 pesos, half a city per print. Yeah. You may just one day just do 100 dump, keep the best ones for yourself, do the others. A couple of years ago, for my children, I started making calendars. Every year, I'll just make pictures of the children's calendars and then give those calendars to my mum because she won't recognize the dates. And then the pictures are fine. So it's an onus on us as storytellers of our families to really do the work and try and put it on paper, because at least paper has no need for password. But I feel it comes down to the service, and I think it's a service that people will pay for. Yeah. It's just having that machine, because let's be honest, that side of photography was the industrialization. I still have a team back home that process my film, that know what colors I like. I'm telling you now, if you and your printer don't support the same football team, don't work together, because you both see red and blue differently. You know, some of us are red and some of us are blue. So, you know, let's have that guy still backs me up. And in film photography, the secret for the photographer was always that team in the background that processed the film, scanned it, had the machine that made the little prints with a white border and gave you them as a gift, because the service you're paying for is just the processing in his time. Yeah.
Dope. So what would you say about like people like me who have cloud and they dump photos in, because that photo isn't going to lose quality, you know, any quality, but for a print it will grow over time.
Age, but that aging is part of its thing.
Yeah.
But I would say for the new generation, make up your books. Make up those small, like those digital books. Hopefully they're affordable, but just make up those books where it's just printed, made into a book, and it sits there, volume 1 to 10. The family story.
I want to ask you guys another question, follow up to what I was asking you. So the idea of family portraits, for instance, I don't see one in your home. Yeah. And I've been to your other house as well, and I didn't see one. But on the wall of the older generation, they have those there. Yeah. So I'm asking you because you're a photographer, and I want to understand your relationship to the print in a way that I want to take, maybe I'm reaching, but I want to take a step further. That did it give you more sense of family when you walk through the door to see a portrait of mom, dad, the kids somewhere prominent on the wall? Yeah. And did it, for good or bad, fuse the family unit better? And now the digital aspect makes it's a space. It's not really home. We're not sitting at the dining table anymore. Everybody, you could do your fast food order. I mean, I feel like I'm eating fries today. You want to eat chicken. Everybody does things separately. And the portrait maybe being that essence of all of those activities that make family. Is that representative of what has become of us in terms of what those photographs, those albums represented for us growing up?
Yeah. So should I go? For me, right, I still see, you know, some homes with, you know, that family, you know, photo on the wall. And like you said, it's usually somewhere where you can see, you can't miss. Once you walk through that door, you are going to see that photo. But for me, I didn't grow up with photos on my wall, you know, back at home. It was just one photo of white Jesus Christ with the inscription, "Still knocking." That was the only picture in the house. I see. Right? That was the only. I actually threw that photo away quite recently, about 10 years ago. I have recently been talking to my friend photographer to come and film us, and also, you know, to take us some shots too. I want to do both because I think that I don't have film. It's always me filming them, especially the kids. Like we don't have film together. You know, if it's a film together, it's just a tacky selfie where I would, you know, so I want to do both. But even with that, I'm not so keen on it because a photo on the wall of us and then what? Like, you know, and then what? Like, for me personally, from where I'm coming from, I will ask myself that question. And then what? For who to see us, and then what? Like, you know, that we know us. We know who and who are, you know, based here. I feel some people from back in the day actually did that because one, photography was like it wasn't cheap. Yeah, if you had a photo in your home, you could afford, you know, because it wasn't everywhere like now where, you know, it wasn't everywhere. So they would want to show off to a certain degree. I don't know if Eddie agrees.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I know my mother, who's a Dunsmore photographer that my mum commissioned. I've forgotten his name.
Yeah,
Mr. Snaps.
There was this popular Dunsmore photographer.
Yeah, so my mum commissioned him. You know, just to
Did he have an afro?
I'm not sure because I never saw what he looked like, but all I remember was just her standing in the middle of Dunsmore High Street with the cars going by with my brothers just. And it's a terrible picture, terrible, pointless. But, you know, I think it was the picture to send back home mentality. And essentially that was the messaging of the formal portrait, is letting everyone know that you're living nice. But that's not needed now. I think you're absolutely right. I think the most important family portraits now are the ones that are on the fridge. The Polaroid ones now. Yeah. It's just moved to the baby shot, the one random shot, just because you're constantly changing as a family that you don't want that one image to define you. And the ones that do have that one image to define them, it's almost like that's when you made your money. Yeah. And that's it's frozen in time. Yeah. Because you got that look of that season. But it's an interesting thing to come to. It's about how we see ourselves and also what goes on our walls. I feel like the wall is a really powerful thing for us. And for me, the power of the portrait isn't on the way into the house, it's on the way out. It's the person you see before you leave your door, the thing that affirmation before you talk about, well, this is what I'd like my day to be, and the icons that you have on your walls to carry you there. Because I did randomly meet a priest in a forest in England, and they talk about the icon, or the reason why that picture of white Jesus was on the wall is that he not only was he A, to protect you, but B, it was a route to God. Well, from my perspective, then you should have your own routes to your places, not just a random guy. Who is this guy? He's not, you know. And so those are. So for me, I have old dirty bastard because it just reminds me to stay fresh every morning. Just right there.
Dope.
So this is how I was thinking about it. Maybe again, I'm being weird with it in my thoughts, but I feel as though, because I didn't grow up in a family unit. My dad was somewhere else, my mom was somewhere else. There was no family portrait in my home because I was growing up with my granddad. My granddad had a portrait of him and his children, but those were my uncles. And then my mom remarried, and they had a family portrait that I was never a part of. Wow. So that was in the living room, and I saw it every day. And my sister saw it every day. I don't know how it affected my sister, but the way it affected me was, I know that as a young child, I was always processing in my head that if I have a family, I'm going to make sure that they stay together. Every member of the family is going to be a part of the family portrait. And I don't want to separate or remove anyone because family, this is what it represents to me. And so now that I've gotten older and I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering, because a friend of mine recently that did a whole photo shoot with his father, David. I don't know if you know David Tabby. And I actually DM'd him to tell him, but he had taken the time to take photos with his dad. It was a formal photo shoot. And then it just clicked in my head that I have a picture of my dad and his dad, but I don't have one. And I was living in an era where I had way more access to cameras and whatever. So I was a bit heartbroken that I didn't do that. I say all that to say this. Is it possible that digital imagery is taking away that sense of bond, because I can imagine that if I'm beefing with my wife and I'm walking out the door and I'm seeing a picture of us on the wall as a unit, some part of me has to register that, look, yeah, you're not liking her right now, but this is what your responsibility is. Yeah. And maybe that's why I said maybe I'm reaching, but I feel like it gives a sense of weight to the importance of the relationships around us and what our priorities should be. For me, because digital is just digital and I'm taking photos of random things, it's not about my family. My focus is on random things and not that necessarily. And I think when I look at my family right now, that's why we are so apart, because I can't even get them to sit down together for Christmas.
Yeah, it's a powerful metaphor you're building there, but you're absolutely right. And I think the message should be clear. And I find it interesting in Japanese culture, particularly, where every time the baby's 100 days old, you have to do a family portrait, which you then force to send to everybody. Wow. And it's locked into their culture, 100 days. So imagine that. Every time your child hits the 100 days, we have to do the family photo. Wow. You have to. And then you have to send it to Nana.
Yeah, that's something I might adopt.
Yeah, and something that we should adapt. Pick a moment in time where we have to. Because then, okay. And then everything is locked into that moment. But the beautiful thing now is the choices of styles of photography that you can, you don't have to go to the studio. Although I do miss the West African, the traditional James Barner, Jamestown, Forever Young studio setup, the checkered floor, the painted backdrop, the curtains down the side, and all the aspiration motorbikes so people can lean in. Oh, come on.
It's dope. I took pictures with my ex in a studio once, and I still have those photos. It's really funny to me because, you had to dress up for the moment. I put on my white tee. I had on this red tracks. I thought I was the shit. With my Adidas Superstars, my earrings in. And every time I think about, I'm losing a bit of faith in myself, I just go and I'm like, yo, you're the shit, man. You was doing this when dudes weren't even getting girls. You had a girl in the studio taking pictures with you, and she was smiling. Yeah. Like she was in love with the moment. So
that's it.
Yeah.
So back to your photos. Yeah. You photographed Coolio. Yeah. You photographed Steve Wonder. Yeah. You photographed Freddie Gibbs. Yeah. You photographed Timberland, 50 Cent, and all that. You make money. You made mention of that money shot. Yeah. Earlier on, in this talk, when you go there and you see that money shot. Yeah. What makes a good photo? When do you know that, yes, this is it?
This pops, this just hits all the, first it's that cosmic geometry where everything in the frame lines up beautifully and leads you to the thing that you want everyone's eyes to lead to. And then that energy in the camera, that person usually, or that thing, just sets it off. That has a feeling, you can't even, like a good tune, it's just got that feeling. And once it's got that, you're good. You're good. And you maybe if you're lucky, get 10 of those in one lifetime, you're good. Yeah. And those are your iconic shots. And you start to realize something when you're 20 years into your photography, how some of your best shots are the things that just keeps like life tells you that that's your better shot. That's when you actually held the moment. Because at the time when you took the picture, you just don't even know. Yeah. You don't even know. And so I'm just still visualizing you in your red tracksuit bottoms and the white stars. Oh my God, just owning it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but what's the hairstyle like?
Short, but it wasn't all the way down.
Waves?
Yeah. I had a Bobby Brown part down the side. It's just wilding up. Oh, man. What's your money shot? What makes a money shot for you?
It's a feeling. Yeah, it's a feeling because you would take similar shots, sometimes the camera wouldn't even move. It's like set up on a tripod, and you take shots from the same angle, but it's a feeling. Maybe how their eyes look in that frame, or it's a feeling. I can't say I look out for this and this and that. It's a feeling. Like usually when I'm sharing a photo on my Instagram, for example, so even though I don't show my photo on online, you know, anytime I'm selecting, I go like, okay, yeah, this photo, because of how the woman's eyes or how he was holding, you know, yeah. So it's a feeling.
Eddie, what do you guys feel like? This is a question to you, but Eddie first. Do you guys feel like on your side of this experience of photography, you guys see things differently from guys like myself who are just lay people?
Yes.
Because sometimes I'll tell you a thing that's something that you've done for me. I haven't mentioned this story to you before, but I'll tell you now. He took a shot of me like maybe 3-4 weeks ago, because I was asking him for it. I've never asked him for a photo. I'm like, yo, I met this girl. I need to send her a photo. Like, take the shot. And then he takes 2 shots, and then he sends them to me. And I'm looking, I'm like, Tombo, these 2 no nonsense shots do I take? What did they mean? I don't like the way my face looks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm criticizing the photo as he sent it to me. I'm like, for some reason, I decided to post it. It's the most engagement I have received on any photo I've ever posted.
Yeah.
And I sent it to the girl. She's like, wow, who took the shot? I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Like, the fuck? I didn't see anything in it.
Yeah. So definitely, the way we see totally different from yours. Sometimes I would be with friends in town, and I'll point something. Oh, that's a good shot. So yeah, definitely. If you start taking photos, I think you see things differently.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, like, you know, a photograph sometimes is like a poem without words.
Yeah.
You know, and so you see the rhyming nature of photography and life. Yeah. It's all just as a watcher. And I find it interesting. One of my heroes locally in London, Neil Kenlock, he went on to set up his radio station called Choice FM. And I realized that it was the photography that led him to understand the value of his own culture. So with that, you had a situation of being able to exploit. You understand by watching and continually watching, and you see some of the most beautiful moments in people that you know, and you want to capture them for them, because that's the gift. And that's a wonderful thing to have on your side, because it's good for your self-esteem. That's why good photography helps. And yeah, that feeling, and you know, you go out looking for a feeling, and you feel the shots happening around you, and then you shoot on the instinct, and it's only when you see it in the frame again that you know you've completed that journey. But what I'd like to do for you is I want you to come and meet my printer, and I want you to bring with me 10 pictures out of your archive that you think you'd want in a box on the table. Yeah. And if you can make that decision for yourself, let me print that for you. Yeah. And that way we can just have it, just leave the box under your bed for 20 years. It will cook well. Yeah. It will cook well.
The next time in you know, on your side, I want you to train me to, you know, be able to develop my own film and such and such. Absolutely. So we'll talk after this podcast. Feriago, you are currently working for the National Portrait Gallery.
Yeah, I work as an educator for the National Portrait Gallery and the V&A, as well, the Victorian Albert Museum, running workshops around film photography, particularly black and white, because it's the most affordable part of that whole process, and allowing people to just learn the value in 36 pictures and to walk away with something that's on paper that you can cut, stick on your fridge, and that's it. Coming back to the point about your whole life can't be in a telephone. It has to exist in the real world. Yeah. That kind of materiality is about who you are and what you represent. And, you know, sometimes we have it in our homes, but not necessarily in that regard. So, yeah, I'm on the teaching thing. But right now, really, the thing that's most important to me is that I've got time and space to write the book. And it's going to drop next year around about September. I'd like to do a launch in Ghana, actually.
Yeah, Charlie. It should happen.
Yeah, just
it would be dope.
Just
I hope to be a part of it.
No, please do. Please, let's have this conversation in front of an audience. Let's put everything that we're saying in context on the walls, all of our stories. And if the space is big enough, maybe bring some friends in, so we can all, when we have the conversation, we can invite others to go into another part of the building and look at some more work.
Yeah, we should.
I think
that would be actually a very dope thing to do.
Yeah.
To
And I'm here for that, really, because, you know, the book's going to be called The Spirit Behind the Lens, and it talks about what happens behind the lens that makes the thing in front of the lens happen. And it just gives me a chance to sort of put as many pictures as I can into a book that covers 30 years of photography. And to a certain extent, a part of this conversation has made me think about how I should be more transparent about where I come from as a Ghanaian.
Yeah.
And particularly as I'm working with James Barner and put his picture in there and just put it in context that we come from a long line of watchers. And there's so much to what we've done and so much to what we'll do. And if we can join all those dots, I'm sure our future is going to be fine.
Solid.
That's
the whole spirit behind the lens.
Yeah.
I love that title. I can't wait to be a part of it. For all intents and purposes, you're a legend in hip hop, right? For what you've done with the culture throughout the years, it can only be classified as legendary and iconic.
Yeah.
Now you're teaching and imparting the knowledge, so people being in your presence feel like, oh, I gotta go tap into Eddie, man. Let me tap into. I watched an interview with a kid interviewing. I could see the awe in which they were excited to speak to you. So I want to ask you, when you think about the educating aspect of your career, what you're doing now, do you think about Ghana and what influence you could potentially have on this landscape?
Yeah, I do think about that. I test drived an idea recently, and it was with a group of women journalists in Ghana. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I brought an old camera with me. I explained my process to them, and I gave them the camera to take pictures of each other. Then I processed the film in front of them, and then together we did our system where we learned to use our phones to make the film into a picture. And it was a really valuable lesson, but I realized it only really came together once James Barner got on his iPad, because I managed to convince him to put in a call and we had him on the projector so they could actually speak to a photojournalist who worked for the Daily Graphic in the 50s, 60s and 70s to really understand that there is value in the everyday story and that you can use portraiture to look at your own family and tell their stories and be custodians of potentially their dreams. So I've tested it out and it does work, but I still feel I need to refine the process a bit more to really deal with what's required on the ground. That said, after we did that conversation, James Barner bought a drone and said, yeah, next time you go to Ghana, give this to them. So clearly he has another way of looking at things. And he's definitely someone who is very much about modern photography. Isn't nostalgic at all about photography. He required our nostalgia to look at his work, but in terms of making work, no, he sees it as just pure journalism. You are a storyteller with a camera. That's your job. You go out there and find the stories.
Top. Wow, Charlie. Yeah, from what Fred to back what Fred just asked, I feel that you should be known here. You know, people talk about the Jonathan, you know, in the States, and all that, like how they hold him, like, oh, he's dope, he's a
Jonathan who?
Beautiful photographer.
And all that. But you are dope. And you are us. You belong to us. You are from here. So I feel that people should know you. People should know what you've done, your history, you know, where you came from. Like, people should know you because you have basically photographed everybody. People that we listen to, people that we see, people that we hold in, you know, high esteem. So I feel it's you know, about time, maybe an exhibition in the near future, very, very near future, because I want this thing to happen. And I've had several talks with, you know, 2 people after we you know, met. So I honestly feel that it should happen. My last question is, the very first photograph on your Instagram is of Aaliyah. How was the experience with her like?
Aaliyah was interesting. I met her twice. One time, the first time I met her, she had a chain around her neck. R. Kelly has the same chain around his neck. Then the second time we met, she didn't have a chain around her neck. She was Aaliyah, the one that we remember her for. And her spirit was pure. In the shoot that I took of her I took a cloth from my mum's collection, like a kente cloth, not kente, but one of her fashionable ones, and I stuck it up behind her. Because the thing about Jonathan Mannion is he's a great studio photographer, and he comes through the studio system. And I'm kind of more of a street photographer, so to make people feel comfortable, I might build a studio, but that just means I take my mum's cloth on the wall and have a light. And Aaliyah was good with that, that kind of crossing of like, oh, it's my mum's cloth. And in my culture, we collect cloth. This is a big deal. And so if she finds out I've got this cloth, I'm dead. Try and explain that to Aaliyah. She got it. Yeah, she understands culture. So that was a beautiful moment for me to record her. And obviously, what happened, and the reason why she's the first on my Instagram is because it was her fan base that recognized what I had. Because while I was hitting my mid-career thing, you're a bit lost. And you just don't know where the value lies in your work. And suddenly these guys are hunting down your work, have been posting your work forever because these pictures reflect the icon that they love. And then I realized the true value of iconography, that we are the custodians of the greats, and we curate our favorite artists, put them on blast for the culture, but it's also the people need them on blast because of what they've been through and how they survived.
Dope. Shy, Fred, do you want to go for your last or?
Yeah, I want to ask something so random. We had David Bolton here.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you guys are close in generation or...
I was born in 74, so I'm not sure. I'm 50 next year.
You don't look it, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I just had a sense that because of the photographs you've taken, you're definitely older than Mutombo and I. Yeah. So I'm sensing that David is around similar age.
Yeah, I should think so.
But when David was here, he was talking about how, when he was in the UK, he was a child prodigy.
Okay.
And he was in the paper for some things because he developed some for surgery or he came up with some type of software.
Okay.
I wanted to know if you ever came across it. Evidently, you didn't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. While you were growing up in the UK.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. It was part of the podcast that's been published.
But
okay. Okay. Oh no.
Okay.
No.
So the reason why I bring that up is also to further what Mutombo was saying about you needing to be known here. David was a child prodigy, like a genius of a programmer or whatever, computer whiz kid, basically, that was forced somehow to come to Ghana because the president wanted him here, and his father was like pushing him to come here, and he's been very impactful to the culture. You've built a career that's amazingly mind-blowing for hip-hop, and hip-hop is transcendent across like continents. So we all know what hip-hop has done for all of us, your generation down and me generations before you, and what it means to us. So for you to be such an icon and a legend, to be here, I feel, and I'm sure Mutombo feels the same, it's so important for a destitute youth who may not see past their dreams to how... I mean, you have Afrobeats blowing up all over the world,
of course.
But I don't think that is fair. That's the only thing that's being highlighted is maybe artistry in the form of music, that you have to be a performer.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to express yourself and your creativity, and you've proven that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're up here close where they can touch, feel, but most importantly, learn from you, that's going to give the next generation another way, another outlet, another way to thrive.
This is it.
And it wasn't a question. I just wanted to big you up.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say that you should seriously consider coming home and putting like a footprint here because...
No, I'd love to. I'd love to build a school of graphic arts, for sure. And identifying the obvious need for things that are created in Ghana that need to be sold elsewhere, and the media with which we can make things look great. We can do it. We can really do it. In the same way you can see South Africa using their media just to sell a thing, a dream, and oh my God, we've got that. We've got that in abundance, and I'm really relying on the next generation to identify the new markets and conquer them.
Yeah. Dope. Would you kindly share your Instagram page?
Yes. My Instagram page is Dagren, Dhagren. And I don't do any of the other medias just yet, but please look out for the new book. And I bought this at the West Hill Malls, I have to say. It was a very entertaining shopping experience.
Yeah.
Dope,
Spirit
dope.
Behind the Lens.
Yeah.
That's the book that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope, Charlie. Fred.
We'll hold you to that.
Oh, thank
By
you,
the way, let's
thank
do
you.
the
I'll do my
thing.
best.
The event thing will be
Yeah.
really dope.
Yeah, no, it's done. It's
Yeah,
done. The
yeah.
conversations happened, and the ancestors will hear, so we'll follow through.
Chai dope, Chai Fred. It's been a dope conversation.
Very, very dope.
Yeah, Charlie,
Very dope.
Chai.
Very.
We thank Eddie Otchere for coming through.
You already know.
Yeah. Chai guys, Charlie, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation with Eddie. You know, follow him, look up his work, Charlie. Dope photographs, and Charlie. Yeah, still watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, leave reviews, share the podcast with 1 or 2 more people, and the if more
Subscribe.
Yeah, and also subscribe. Yeah. And Charlie,
Comment.
yeah, comment. Everything's on. Charlie, the if more let's divide Fred.
Yes, sir.
We are through.
Oh, this is dope. I didn't realize the time was flying.
Is anyone hungry though? Should we go and